Hey, what's up guys? My name is Sal and this is another expedition log. Today, we are going to explore a mall that was quite literally built on top of the ashes of Pittsburgh's steel industry. Now that's not to say that the steel industry in Pittsburgh is dead, but it was booming back in the early 1900s into the mid-century. This mall is not doing so great, and management knows it. They're trying to keep the current state of the mall a secret, and they have the security guards running the place like a police state. They'll stop you and check your cell phone to make sure you're not taking a picture or anything or a video, but today, come take a walk with me, and let me show you the video that I took. But let's go to Wendy's first. Let's grab a bite to eat.
Yes, we know it's a big fluffy bun.
Talk to the manager.
It is the manager.
Where's the beef? Where's the beef?
He's putting us under the supervisor.
If you ask me, which you didn't, we should call the owner.
At Wendy's, the hamburger we modestly call a single has more beef than the Big Mac or Whopper.
We've got the owner.
Hello? Where's the beef?
Wendy's kind of people never ask, where's the beef?
I don't think there's anybody there. I really don't.
The history of the Century 3 Mall doesn't just start when the mall was built. As with most places that I've explored and researched, the history starts well before the first shovel goes into the ground. And with this place in particular, it speaks volumes to not only the Pittsburgh area, but the entire nation of America. In 1913, Carnegie Illinois Steel, which was part of the U.S. Steel Corporation, purchased 410 acres of land to use for dumping slag. Slag is the byproduct of smelting metal from its raw ore and is disposed of when molten. The Pittsburgh steel industry was booming. The slag dump, which became known as Brown's Dump, is and was a symbol of industrial America. People would come from distant locations to watch Union Railroad slag trains dump the molten waste continuously for over 50 years, day and night. The show was especially brilliant at night, as it resembled several bright streams of molten slag which looked just like the lava flowing down the side of a mountain. Ultimately, the slag pile of Brown's Dump was over 70 million tons and more than 200 feet high, and it spanned what would equate to 130 city blocks. Dumping on this site was ceased in the late 1960s. In 1969, the USS Realty Development, which was a division of US Steel, they took control of Brown's Dump and began looking for an alternative use for the land. By 1974, 25 acres of land were cleared, and a few businesses actually opened at the foot of the mountain. Small businesses, nothing huge. In 1976, USS Realty formed a partnership with the Edward J. DeBartolo Group of Youngstown, Ohio. They then cleared another 110 acres of land and made plans to open a shopping mall on the site. Taking inspiration from America's third centennial in 1976, they decided to name the mall Century 3. The first construction permits were granted for the $2.8 million JCPenney's building on June 8, 1978. On October 10, 1978, the first steel was laid and superstructure work began on the $100 million, 1.6 million square foot Century 3 Mall, complete with 6,000 parking spaces and a skate park for skateboarders of the early 80s. October 25th, 1979 saw the dedication of Phase 1 of the Century 3 Mall. This brought the two inaugural anchors, which were JCPenney's and Kaufmann's, along with 75 inline shops and restaurants. On August 1st, 1979, Gimbel's opened as the third anchor. Then, on March 12, 1980, Phase 2 dedication, with a 3-floor Montgomery ward as the fourth anchor, along with 46 new inline tenants, was completed. A few months later, Sears opened as the fifth anchor. What we're looking at right now is a bird flying around in the old Montgomery Ward wing. And the section that we're looking at, that was closed off when I went to visit here. Also, the third floor was closed off. At this point, the food court is closed off, and the only part that you can access is the main concourse in the middle, down to the JCPenney's wing.
And you'll see why 1984 won't be like 1984.
The 80s and 90s were a tumultuous time for anchors at the mall, with many changing hands due to bankruptcy and acquisition between businesses. On October 30th, 1986, the Montgomery Wards was replaced by a Joseph Horn department store after the store underwent an $11 million renovation. Gimbel's closed in 1988, and while the top floor section sat abandoned, TJ Maxx took over the bottom in 1989. Despite being owned by Federated Department Stores since 1946, Kaufmann's kept its nameplate. However, they were acquired by Federated's Lazarus division in 1995. They still actually kept the plate then, even after being acquired. So, as typical with dead malls, here we have a closed-off mall entrance to one of the anchors. JCPenney's has closed off the entrance to the interior of the mall. But look at that mirror finish, the old 70s style mirror finish of the JCPenney's. So cool. In 1996, the Simon Property Group acquired the entire DeBartolo Mall portfolio for an estimated $3 billion, of which about $80 million was left on the Century 3 mortgage. In 1977, the top floor of the old Gimbel's department store was occupied by a Wix Furniture. The mall started to drastically decline when the Waterfront Shopping Center opened in the nearby Homestead in 1999. This drew most traffic away from Century 3. So in a second, we're going to get our first really good look at the damage that's been done to the carpet and also to the ceiling. Now, in recent news, this mall has had a lot of flooding, and that has caused a lot of tenants to leave. But look, in a second here, you're gonna see right there. Oh, look how disgusting that is. I'm sure that was a kiosk that was there for, decades. And then there's the ceiling. That's all over the mall. You'll see the black stains and just missing tiles. It's just disgusting. So I did try to use this elevator. and I pressed the button. I tried to make it go, but I'm pretty sure it's broken. In a second here, you'll see when I get off the elevator and you look back, if you look very carefully, you'll see the car move just very slightly up and down. And in the next angle, you'll see some old guy just standing there who's looks just as clueless as I was. I was pretty upset that the carousel wasn't on, but I wasn't surprised in the least. I kind of figured it'd be off. Such a cool double-decker carousel, though.
This is Century 3 Chevrolet's annual Memorial Day clearance sale.
And now for Memorial Day, every new Century 3 Chevrolet and Geo in stock is on sale.
400 to choose.
New Gladiator Van conversions from just $16,993.
93 Luminous from just $10,993.
93 Cavaliers from just $69.93.
Century 3 Chevrolet's annual Memorial Day clearance sale.
Now through Memorial Day.
That's a good deal.
Century 3 Chevrolet, Lebanon Church Road, Pittsburgh.
News from the mall.
TJ Maxx closed in 2003, and they were replaced by a discount clothing chain called Steve & Barry's. Then in 2004, the Wicks Furniture closed and was replaced by a Dick's Sporting Goods. The Kaufman nameplate, the sacred Kaufman nameplate, was finally and officially retired in 2006 when the chain merged into Macy's. Later that year, the Century 3 was given a fair market value of $150 million. In July of 2008, Steve & Barry's filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and they liquidated all of the stores that they owned. In 2011, a couple years after Steve & Barry's filed for bankruptcy, Simon defaulted on the remaining balance of the loan for Century 3, which put it in the hands of a Texas-based asset management firm. In 2012, the mall's assessment value dropped to a mere $27 million, and it was sold to Moonbeam in June of 2013 for a $10.5 million. Now, Moonbeam actually published plans to renovate and demolish most of the mall in 2015. Very shortly thereafter, the plans just vanished, and nobody saw them anymore. In 2016, as a part of their nationwide closures, Macy's left the Century 3 Mall. And as of 2018, there's only about a dozen stores left, and that includes the Dick's Sporting Goods and the JCPenney's. But the Pennies closed off their interior mall access. The mall is in its final throes. It's on its deathbed, and nobody can reach Moonbeam. They won't talk about this. They are trying to hide. The Century 3 Mall is dying. Yet explorers like me and other people that go and visit this place, we can clearly see that it's not doing so hot. I want this mall to survive. And it can. It can certainly be repurposed into something else. But what that thing is, that's up to Moonbeam at this point. Now, because of all of the rumors that I was hearing about the security at this mall, I wanted to bring an alibi as to why I was there. I couldn't just walk in and say, I'm here to explore and photograph and take video of your mall. I couldn't say that. So I gathered together a couple of binders of my old trading cards, and I went to the comic book store. And my alibi was that I'm there to have my trading cards appraised. So if a security guard were to stop me, I'd then say, hey, just take me back to the comic book store, I'll get my cards back, and I'll be on my way. Now, fortunately, I was only stopped once, and I was able to conceal my camera pretty well. But I did take my chances, and I did sneak into the old Montgomery Ward wing, just to get a few pretty awesome shots that you'll see in a second here. They didn't do a very good job barricading it. The entire time that I was at this mall, it was a giant cat and mouse game with the security guards, and there were actually about 3 or 4 of them inside the mall. When I went outside the mall and I got my footage of the parking garage, I had to wait for about 5 minutes because 2 security guard jeeps actually surrounded my vehicle, and I had to wait for them to go away. So if you do plan to visit this mall, security is no joke, and they will watch you. They'll watch every step you take. But check this out. Look how cool this is. This wing is closed off now. I'm pretty sure it's sealed off, but you can get a really good glimpse of what the main concourse is like here. So check this out. This is our last view of the Century 3 Mall. So I'd like to thank everyone who watched this video, and especially those who have subscribed and supported me on this channel. And in a second, you'll be able to hear me freaking out. Because the security guard was back there, and I think he did spot me. So I ran, and I actually got out of the mall pretty quick. But once again, thank you so much to everyone who supported this channel so far, and if there's something that displeased you, please let me know in the comments, and I will do my best to make it better in the future. And if there's something that you liked, please subscribe and set your notifications, because I have a ton more content coming and I'm always looking to improve. Take care, everybody.